morning, and welcome to another edition of Roadhouse Live. We are live. Today is November 16, 2023. Bender, another day, dude. Another day. Got any feels?
Today's a great day because we signed our paperwork yesterday, and I get paid this morning.
That's good. That's good.
It is good.
Man, gonna go shopping. Get him a double
Gonna
wide
go
or two.
shopping, something like that. Yeah.
All right. So let's get into the day and the things that we're kind of looking at and feeling with and dealing with. So Xi and Biden met. Apparently, everything should be taken on the surface as being okay. Market didn't seem to give a shit either way. Um, Microsoft unveiled a new chip. Did you dig into that, Bender? New AI chip?
I did a little bit of reading. I talked to some people that watched the event. I talked to a few people at Microsoft, and really did not get. I didn't get anything valuable. That's really going to help. So I think I got to wait for some more.
Well, Microsoft was one of the stronger ones pre-market this morning. It was up a couple of bucks before the data. I haven't looked at it since, but that was one of the stronger tickers this morning was the Microsoft. Which is interesting. It's like Cisco reported yesterday, and those are not good numbers in any capacity. And obviously they kind of guided down moving forward, which is not a good thing. To me, it just feels like there's a lot of sandbagging going on with some of these ERs as far as guiding down, tempering expectations, that kind of stuff, so they can put up massive beats next cycle. We'll see if that's ultimately what it is, or if there was a real reason to do it. As far as some of these guide downs and cautious outlooks. So we did
just a quick longer term thought on companies like Cisco. The more that things move to cloud and transition to cloud, I have this concern for companies like that obviously they do a very wide range of things, but they're known for route switch security. And a lot of that stuff is moving to a software-defined model. And some of the bigger companies, Facebook was one of the first to basically design their own servers and use white box type hardware. And there's other companies that are kind of moving that direction on the network side, or that already have. Arista is one of those companies that provides the ability to do that. I wonder how much route switch kind of turns into commodity hardware. It'll be interesting to see over the next few years how that kind of transforms, and how some of your Juniper and Cisco and some of those other companies that make that stuff, kind of how they're making like software appliances for cloud deployment. It'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. And I think over the next couple of years, it's going to be really interesting to see how they stay at the forefront.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's like, honestly, for me, I have no idea how to, like, when it comes to the intricacies of all that, how to play it out. I know at one point in time, everybody thought Cisco was dead in the water and would go to zero, but then they changed their revenue model to more of a subscription base, from my understanding. And, they were able to kind of, get their head above water. I don't know what any of this is moving forward. We know who the giant players are. It's like, you want in that space, you play with the big boys.
Well, hopefully I'll be able to kind of keep some sort of pulse on that sector, and be able to provide some information kind of as this stuff starts to unfold.
Yeah. But we did get data this morning, and that data has continued to move towards, things moving in the right direction from an inflation standpoint, and some of the components that they were looking for to take place. We had a slight uptick in jobless claims. Import-export prices came in about where they should, relatively speaking, to continue this push. A real drawdown in Philly Fed manufacturing, which know if it wasn't as bad as thought, but it's still a negative reading. And the dollar basically had a pretty good spill. We are far from out of the woods as far as data is concerned today. About 20 minutes, we get an industrial production. Um, we also get Fed speakers in about 30 minutes. We get Williams. Then we get this Krosner dude after that, and Waller and more Barr. So there's a lot of stuff hanging out there, and we get 4-week and 8-week bill auction. So we'll see how that plays out at the same time, followed up by Mester. So there is just a lot of stuff today, a lot. And then after market closes, I believe we get Fed balance sheet. So there's a lot of moving pieces out there, a lot of stuff that's going to be happening intraday. I don't know, how to jump up and down and try to play it, but overnight we do get CPI out of Europe. I think that'll be an important print coming in to make sure things are moving the right direction. More central bankers to be speaking tonight. And then tomorrow we get building permits, housing starts, that kind of stuff. And then we get Daly speaking tomorrow also with Atlanta Fed GDP. So there's stuff everywhere. But if you're just looking at things appear to be moving in the right direction. But we've talked about this market dynamic shift, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So we were operating under the basis on the previous market structure shift that bad data was good for the market. And we're starting to see, in my opinion, bad data could actually, moving forward, and when I say bad data, I mean bad data, not coming in line or within margin of error, that kind of stuff. But bad data could now be a detriment to the markets moving forward. That's where the tick up in conversation as far as, stagflation and all that kind of shit will come right back into the picture in conversation. And the way the Fed is positioning, and we have to keep this in mind. I don't know at this point, and looking at everything, if that's a word I'm looking for. If the Fed coming out and cutting rates is going to be a good thing for the markets. Because I think if they were to do that, that means we have a real problem with the economy. Now, when does this happen? I don't know. It's hard to imagine it happen during this election cycle. It's very difficult for me to see it, even though it appears that they're pricing in cuts into May. I suppose it's possible. But we're entering a different dynamic, and we're going to have to start looking at things a little bit differently. So the sooner we start kind of looking for those little tea leaves and those little things as far as, okay, so how is the market digesting it? What are they looking to have accomplished, especially when we start pushing up near all-time highs, which, if you're looking at the NASDAQ, we're not too far off the way this thing can run. We could be there in a week if it felt like it. But I think it's worth paying attention to as far as how these things kind of move around. I think the big piece that's kind of left out there, in addition to all the other Fed jabber in the data, is going to be this NVIDIA ER. We saw Burry come out and say that he's shorting semis. We saw a little bit of put flow into semis as far as the semi ETFs yesterday, just a little bit. So now the question is what will the next shoe be to drop? Because the one thing that we do know without question that is unequivocal, they like to keep us guessing in the dark. That is part of the market game. It is very rarely just a direct straight through line. And you can be right on certain things, but your time frame might be wrong. So as we're creeping up here, everybody's looking for a pullback. Everybody's looking for a knife down. I'm still of the opinion that they want to run this thing and break the back of anybody who's even thought about going short over the last 2 years. Even thought about it. They want to break their back. That's my opinion. And then let the cards kind of sit where they may into the new year. That's kind of where I'm at. With that being said, I'll go ahead and turn this over to you. You chart us up. I'm going to go grab more coffee and be right back. Got anything else before I walk away for a minute?
No. Let's get into it.
Very good.
All right, so I'm going to start with just a quick look at the daily here on the ES, and really just kind of want to point out, bigger picture here, that 45.66 level, that kind of was that bounce high before the push down. We've got that sitting just overhead, and you can kind of see this shaded box right here. If I go into like a 4 hour, you can see how this was, a fair value gap in here and then here as well. So that was a pretty quick sell through, and then, that quick push up back into it. I would say that, there's still some stuff in here that, because of how quickly it moved down and how quickly it moved back up, I would not be surprised to see them kind of backfill some of this stuff. Don't know that it'll happen, but it wouldn't surprise me. And the reason why I want to take this bigger picture view is because, look, they might jam this right through 45.66, and wherever they want to take it. But in the sort of bigger picture grand scale, even if we were to pull down back into, say 44.50 or so, bigger picture wise, it's not damaging, right? So just keep that in mind, regardless of what happens, that even coming back down into here, it doesn't break anything, in my opinion. Bigger picture, going back to the daily, you can see how we came down here, we swept these lows. We talked about this from back in April, and then it was just boom, right back up after taking that, right? So pulling back into this area just doesn't break anything. I wouldn't want to see it much lower than that, but I could conceivably go, okay, well, maybe they backfill some of this before making that move up. No idea, but again, doesn't really break anything. Let's go to zoom in. Let's go to a 15-minute. And I'll show you some of the levels that I kind of have identified. So we actually took, this one was kind of the first level I had at the upside, 45.21.5, and it looks like we took that, and then after taking that high there, pulling back a bit here, you can see this 15-minute fair value gap sitting in here, right? I think the major liquidity right now sits here, 45.06.25, I think is where that one's at. Yeah, 45.06.25, which I've labeled there. You can see that this low right here didn't take this previous low. That low didn't take this previous low. It filled in this fair value gap. I think there's some stops sitting down here if they decide they want to get, make it scary at all. I could see them taking this 45.06.25, and I'd be looking for, that'd be the kind of the first area to look for a reaction, not necessarily just jumping in if that gets taken, because you got 4,500 just below that. And then you can see kind of this, that move up after consolidating a little bit. So under 4,500, you could see it potentially probe down into this area here and kind of see what they do with it. So, we always talk about the look for, a major level to get taken and then see what kind of reaction you get. Look for, if you're looking for a reversal, wait for the market structure shift so you don't get screwed trying to catch knives in either direction, right? Got to see that sort of, you have to see that structure shift happen if you're trying to play a reversal. If you are trying to play for continuation, then you're looking for the opposite. You're looking for that push down below that level that leaves a fair value gap behind, and then come back and trade into it. That's your short opportunity, right? So I think early on for me, I'll be watching this 15-minute fair value gap. Kind of see what we do with it. Again, 4506.25 to see if we get a reaction there. 4500, and then just kind of play it as it, as the price action dictates. Back above 45.21.5, if we get back above that now, because now we've taken it, right? So the only reason to go back up there is if we're going to continue higher. So then you've got 45.29.5 right here. I'm actually going to take these fibs off. I left those on just to show, because yesterday we talked about that wick and watching for what happens if it trades up into the midpoint of that wick. And I said, if it does that, probably not a bad place to try it short. And it ticked just above that. Now we have relative equal highs sitting up there. So at some point, those get taken out as stops. Yeah, above 45.21.5, 45.29.5. And above that, I would say targets those relative equal highs, which is 45.36.75. And then you got that pre-market wick high there, 45.41.25. And above that, we've got, stuff much higher. I don't know that I have a whole lot else. Let's go into a 5-minute real quick and see what this looks like. Yeah, I mean, the big set of stops, I think, sitting right there. It really decides it wants to get some, selling pressure. You can see these volume imbalances in here, all kinds of crap. So kind of a trade down, if it trades down into here, this would be, I think, challenging to try to play the 15-minute fair value gap, potentially if it gets down into the bottom here, 45.13. That may be an area to give it a shot. I'll look at the clocks and I'll see what might line up on the 13-minute. I'll provide that at the end of the show here. I think that's about all I got. Go back. There was one other. Where was that? I had the gap marked as well. Yeah. 45.83.75 was the top. If I go to the regular trading hours, that was the top of that gap up that we had on Monday. Yesterday.
Certainly feels awfully goofy, man.
Tuesday. Yeah.
It's like that was a very lackluster pop we got off of that data.
Yep.
All right, we got stonks.
That's about all I got. Yep.
Yo, all right. Let's do some stuff. Let's see. We can talk about not a lot of news going on over here, but we'll talk through it. It seems like a lot of this is just reacting things up or down based on other people's earnings. Let's see. Starbucks are going to do a 1-day strike, potentially. Get your pumpkin spice vanilla bullshit in while you can. Let's see. I guess PanW did not do well, and that is hitting the what's that? Cybersecurity, crowds down, ZS down, ANET, cyber, a lot of stuff taking a hit with PanW, and then Cisco also. You guys mentioned that one was not doing so hot, and AVGO is down off of that. It sounds like Walmart did pretty well, Target did well, so those are looking good. Dark pools, let's see, they keep hitting that NEM. They've been hitting FIS and Visa, repeat days of size on Visa. Other than that, nothing too crazy here. Zillow's on the list. Goldman, you can go check that one out. And let's get into some charts here. So I realized we hadn't been doing enough smashing lately, so I figured we could take a quick look. Really,
Sounds like a personal problem.
I know, dude. Can't go too many days without smashing. You're getting frustrated or something. Build up. So yeah, here yesterday's price action technically would not give us anything because we closed, within the prior day's range technically. So this candle would be the last one that would have potentially given us the setup, and it would be a short. So we've got an alert here to see if we break SPY's low from Monday. That would be the smash day. That potential, it would be a short setup if we broke that low. So we'll get an alert that pops in the room there. I just figured I'd throw that out because we hadn't looked at it in a couple days, and this was the last one that gives us an opportunity, that CPI pop. Let's jump over and take a look at the NASDAQ. I was kind of over here following along with Bender, and let's see what we got. All right, we've got some things. We've got we'll start on the daily. Volume imbalance, still didn't lay a candle over it, so keeping that on the chart. We've got this daily fair value gap. We were not able to close above it, which would have had me looking at this area as support, so we can see if this still offers, resistance or run back up into that. And then we also left this little volume imbalance as well in here. So threw that one on the chart. Drill down a little bit. Very similar. Very clearly see this is where there will be stops. That's going to be this. What is that? 15,822. So very clean. If we're seeking and destroying, we've got stops above, right in here. So if we, just like Thunder was saying, if we run up through that and we pause, then I think this would be a good target for downside. And then we would see what they do with it down here at 15,822. So if you're looking for a long, maybe you want to wait and see the reaction down there. See if we can keep going if we tag that. And then, then similarly, Bender had 4,500. So the next step down here, and then would be this, what's that, 15,788. And then we jump back over to the daily. We've got this order block here. We talked about this one yesterday as well. Green candle before a sell-off. So it would have been a bearish order block. We popped it. So if we pull back, going to be looking for potentially this to be a breaker. So we see if we can get a bounce, which would kind of line up with the bottom of this daily fair value gap, which is this candle's low or this candle's high, excuse me. That one's low. So some things we can look for over there on the NASDAQ. But I think the really important thing is going to be the reaction here to that 15,822. If we jump over to the Russell. So very similarly, yesterday I was looking to see the reaction when we broke this. On the 5-minute, we paused and held, because at first I was thinking, maybe they just wanted to stop out there and bring us back down. And then for the moment that turned out to be the case. Now we've got this kind of like rising megaphone type setup. We ran these stops, and so we're kind of sitting on, I think this is still going to be a key level. Did resistance become support idea? So we'll see what they do with this 1801.4. We're kind of sitting on it. If we give that up, we've got next this 1780.6 is going to be this one, another key level. And then that would also kind of fill this hourly gap, smaller one. The yellow boxes are daily fair value gap, so we've got some people left behind. And so we're just kind of going to be watching this, rising megaphone type setup. Bull's still out there in the flow on the IWM, which I like to use to kind of give a hint on the Russell. So I'll be looking. I mean, and you can also you could maybe even call this a bull flag inside this little rising setup here. So just going to kind of let the price action signal here, because we've stopped out this bear. We've stopped out this bear. So we've got some key levels in this area. Just going to kind of see how it plays out. The other one I wanted to take a look at was the dollar. We said on Monday I was bearish on the dollar going into this week, and we got the sell-off, and now we had this kind of falling trend line, almost retested, and rejected, and now maybe even kind of like some kind of rising setup here underneath, bear flag maybe ish, and then we've got daily fair value gap below, yellow box, could give a target down here at 103.74. Orange box would be a weekly gap. This candle's low. We had some trades into it. Was this the monthly one? Yeah. So let's see. Yeah. So I think if we close below this low, that will be a good signal for weakness on the dollar, which seems to have been helpful for bulls in the market and commodities. So we'll see what we get. I think this is going to be a key level, this 104.35 on the dollar. Let's see what else. We can take a look at Apple real quick here. And so Apple, it's interesting. I had this as key level 188.05. Then they hit it with dark pool last night, 188.01. So I think that's going to be an important one. You can see how many times we've banged off of it. Now this kind of almost looks like we're flagging here on the 4 hour. So for continued upside, psychological round number up there at 190. You can see that was a key level where we sold off. So basically just going to be watching Apple here, see if we hold this dark pool that came in last night, pop the flag, and then watch for the reaction up at 190, or if we're going to give out this 188.01, which could create some downside over there on Apple. I think that's all I got for today.
All right. Real quick, I'm going to share for anybody that wants it. Here is, if you want to take a screenshot of that, there's your 13-minute times. You got possible buy pressure, both ES and NQ, 10:02 Eastern. Possible buy pressure at 12:12 on ES, 12:47 NQ, and then possible sell pressure on both at 15:10. Keep an eye on those. You know, there are some times in between, but they don't really line up, and there's not a whole lot of space in between times, so I kind of ignore those, right? But from 10:02, I think you got about 50 minutes or an hour or something like that until there's a 13-minute sell pressure, and then from 12:12 on the ES and 12:47 on NQ, you don't have really sell pressure that lines up until 15:10. So doesn't mean they won't sell or buy in between those. It just means that if you are looking for, I don't like to take trades against those, right? And if I'm looking for entries, if I'm looking long, I like when my entries can line up with my clock. These times, these are just for today. These change daily. I'll try to provide those 13-minute times more frequently, and you can kind of just follow along and see how they behave. Sometimes it takes a candle or two. More often than not, when you go back and you look at it, if you put these times on the chart, more often than not, over the course of a week or 2 weeks or whatever, when I provide these times, you put them on the chart, you go back and look, and you'll see that more often than not, that's about when things kind of change direction, right? Or consolidate. If there's a buy pressure time coming up and we're moving down, a lot of times that it'll pause in there for a few candles, 15-minute candles. You'll see it, okay, kind of consolidates. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to reverse or move up, but a lot of times you'll see some support step in, things kind of consolidate. So it's good to be aware of them. Like I said, throw them on the chart and just kind of pay attention and track them for a few weeks, and then it'll give you an idea of what you might be looking for. So that's all I got. Hells?
Must have gotten too into that coffee.
Yeah, I guess so. Or he's eating another cigarette or whatever he does.
Siggy's for
all right.
breakfast.
That's all I got. Anything, Stonkington? We good?
Good.
All right. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.